Is there anybody in here that does 3D printing? Oh, good. About half the room. Anybody that's ever wanted to get into making cosplay? Same people. Awesome. It's funny how there's usually a crossover with that. So at the end, I will answer every question anybody has. And then if you want more information, either come up to me at my booth. Of course, I went and forgot to grab my business cards. Okay, thank you. My father-in-law. Thank you, Jim. Who's going to go get me? Just grab one of the boxes. I'll have them up here. I want to help everybody who asks for free on everything about this. My viewpoint on cosplay is this. I have 8 billion customers in the world because every single person in every country, everywhere in the world has wanted to dress up and be something at some point in their life. So there's enough for everybody. I make my entire living 3D printing and making cosplay. This is what I do. This isn't a hobby. This is my full-time job. Tomorrow is 1 year that I've been in business. I started, thank you. I started cosplay full-time. I've been a cosplayer since I was a kid. And I think we all have. Have you ever dressed up for Halloween? Congratulations, you're a cosplayer. You've ever tried to get into what you're doing? You're a cosplayer. And you could come by my booth in something you've made out of cardboard, and I'm going to be damn proud of you. Well done, because you made it, and you put your heart and soul into it. I only get critical of people who sell things when they haven't put the work into it. So other resellers of cosplay where you can tell that there's been no effort applied and it comes right off the printer and they haven't even tried to sand it or make it look nice, but they're wanting to sell outrageous price for it. And I think we've all, if we've ever searched, I think if we're being really honest, and I'll be honest, in the beginning, I was there too. I was one of those guys. My problem is never that your stuff isn't perfect. Mine's not. You can come up here and you'll see imperfections on all my pieces. It's that you aren't trying to improve it to get it to where it's worth the price point you're trying to sell it at. So this is my full-time job. My wife and I run the business. So I'll get right into that. So the original title I had for this was Taking the Challenge of Every Cosplay. I don't say no to a cosplay. I don't care what physical limitations you may have. I don't care what challenges. I don't care your weight, your size. I don't care any of those things. I will find a way to put you in the cosplay you want to be in, one way or another. We will find a way. And I'll show you how we approach that, and I'll tell you the software I use. I'll show you the products we use. I don't have a vendor list up here of people I get my models from. That's something I will give individually because I don't have their permission to put that into a public forum. But I'm happy to individually, if you want to know where to get good files, I can tell you. Tell you a little bit about who we are. So we are family owned and operated. We're a 3D print company based out of Southwest Florida. I live about 45 minutes southwest of Tampa, if you know where that is. We are one of the largest custom cosplay providers in the state, and I have customers all over the world. We specialize in bespoke cosplays. My seamstress told me I had to use that word, bespoke. I guess that's the buzzword now. It just means custom. We are custom. I don't sell kits. If somebody wants a kit because they want to do it themselves, and I get a lot of cosplayers that do that. You guys want to put the work in. Great. You're my favorite people because I can just take it off the printer, send it to you. But what you get will still be sized to fit you. Okay, it's not a one-size-fits-all world. I'm 6'2". This doesn't even fit me correctly because I've lost 45 pounds in the last 6 months. And so now the neck, I have to get the neck piece taken into. My seamstress is already not looking forward to that. We are not universally built. It's just how that's the world is. And so many times when you buy kits, and this was something the 501st ran into for a long time, is that the kits that were available for stormtroopers and the kits that were available for things were cast off of ones that were used in the movie. And if you go back and watch A New Hope, you'll see some of the stormtroopers look pretty good, and some of them look like the armor's just a little bit too big for them because they cast it off of a universal form. 3D printing allows us to go that extra step of having it fit you. I do work with independent engineering groups for prototyping various parts. I do print in carbon fiber when necessary. So I have people that come to me and say, hey, we have this blueprint of a gearbox or something. And we'll 3D print the prototype. We'll make sure it works how it should out of carbon fiber because it's tough and can take some wear and tear. And if it works, then they will send it off to a CNC. That's about 1% of my business. I don't get that super often, but it does come up. And when you put yourself out there as a 3D printer, that will happen. We are also the official cosplay supplier of 2 magazines, Cosplay Society and Gothic Culture. I have ads that run every month in both of those, and their models wear my stuff, which is cool. And then actress and model Jessica Felice, who's that? How I got that magazine deal, just to tell you, was I've been a fan of hers for a long time. We've met several times through different things, and I started making stuff for her for free. And then I found out that she was one of the main models of this magazine. Then the owner of the magazine came to me a few months after that and said, hey, you've been making all this stuff for my main person in my magazine. Do you want to just be in my magazine? Sure. Yes, I do. I want to be in your magazine. Please put me in your magazine. I will be in your magazine. So we do, and I have total creative freedom, which is cool. So he doesn't tell me what to put in the ad. I send him an ad for each magazine, a different ad every month, advertising pieces we've made, and that's what he puts in. I have no oversight from him on that, which is really cool. And he puts it right in the middle of the magazine, which is neat. It's like right on the centerfold. Or right next to it. Usually she's on the centerfold. But she's a magnificent person, but she's one, and you can kind of tell by looking at her, her standards are very, very high. And I have had her send me pieces back that don't fit right. Because being a model, her proportions are not normal. So I used her as our baseline process for how we started getting things to fit somebody custom. Because I used to go, well, okay, you're about a size X, sure. Well, a size X on a magazine model, or in her case, also a Playboy bunny, is not the same as a size 4 on her is not the same as a size 4 on somebody else. So we started molding our custom fit process off of using her, and once we figured out, how I can do it with her, then I learned how we can do that with other people. He's bringing me my box of business cards. Thank you, Jim. Great. And I'll just have these up here if anybody wants them. On the back of the cards are my socials. If you message me on any of these, you will get me or my wife directly. On the front is our website. Our website is currently under construction. It's going to become a shop where you can actually go on and just buy all the cutesy stuff, the dragons and the cutesy 3D printed stuff that everybody makes and sells. We do sell that stuff. But I will come back to that in a minute. So this is the team, the Dungeon Masters. My wife and I, we started the business. That's me when I have facial hair. This was at a Harry Potter convention that we did back in March up in Jacksonville. And there was a really cool photo team that was there that was doing these, and so they did all the work and made us look awesome. But those are our Harry Potter cosplays. So that's my wife, Becky. She manages the business side of things. She finds the cons. She handles a lot of the customer communication before I get a chance to. She finds vendors. She finds models. If I tell her I need these models put on the printer, she'll work on the computer getting those things ready while I'm the one who's in the shop building most everything. And I oversee the actual production of the pieces. This is my think tank crew. These 3 guys, they're 3 of my best friends. We all started as a D&D group. When my company started, if you saw in the program, it said Dungeon Guild Minis. That was the original name of my company. We made custom miniatures during COVID out of resin, because none of the game shops could get them in from China. So we were making custom D&D minis, and then the business grew and changed from there. So we started off playing D&D together. And then these 3 came to me and said, we want to be a part of what you do. How do you do that? And I said, well, I can't afford to hire you. So they're my sales guys. I'll tell you how that works. They work on commission. Normally, this was too far of a trip for them to make kind of at the time, but they go with me to all my cons in Florida. They will be at my booth. I give each of them a pocket notebook, and they will be at my booth, and all day long, their whole job is to talk to people about cosplay and get a name and a phone number for me to follow up with. After the con, I will follow up. Any of those that turn into cosplay sales, they get 10% right off the top. I actually have that available to everybody. So if you refer me to anyone, the only requirements are it has to be a cosplay piece, and they have to tell me who referred them, because otherwise I don't know who to pay. But I will pay 10% to anybody who refers somebody to me that turns into a sale. So I essentially have people all over the country that work for me. And it works. because it might be 10% off sale, might be $30, but hey, $30 is gas. $30 is $30, you know, take it, whatever it is. Some of these guys I have paid a lot of money to and they are mightily motivated for 8 hours. They will hustle and talk and talk and talk all day long. And it's great because it frees me to go around and meet other vendors and network. And that's what I love to do. That's my background is networking. And then this is our master seamstress. I wanted to throw this up because 2 days ago, she got her Rebel Legion approval for her Princess Leia. It finally came through. She submitted it weeks ago, but there's a whole process and then the review and everything else. And I see a few people wearing recognizable patches on their shirts that know the process. We met because, and if you go to my booth, you'll know it's my booth because there's a giant picture of her on a stand-up banner that says, "Order your cosplay today and bring a new hope to the galaxy." I thought that was really clever. But it's a picture of her and she's holding her Leia blaster. We met because she was on a committee for a con. She's head of the Tampa Bay Costumers and Cosplayers Association, and she was at a con and we met, and she needed a blaster for her Rebel Leia approval, and I'm like, sure, I can build that. So we did the Satine's Lament blaster that she has at the very beginning of A New Hope. So we made that blaster for her. And then I saw her, we did a whole presentation at the next con we were at, where I was in Jedi robes that I'll be in tomorrow, and I presented Princess Leia with her blaster, and we had this whole thing. If you go on our Instagram and our Facebook, the video's there. But then I saw the quality of what she made, and I got talking to her about it, and found out that she made her entire outfit, top to bottom. And it was immaculate. And I started to get to know her, and said, her name is Lori, and I got to talking to her, and found out that she's been sewing professionally for the last 20 years. This is all she does. She's a former firefighter out of New York, and when she moved to Florida, she didn't want to be a firefighter anymore because it's kind of hot here. And so she does professional cosplay making. So that's her. She was going to come to this con, and a few days before we were supposed to leave, she got a commission to do a Princess Leia. So I was like, nope, stay, make money, do your job, it's fine. But she handles now all of our fabric work. So she works for me, but not for me. She's her own entity. But if you were to come to me and say, I want Jango Fett, that's one I'm currently working on. You want a Jango Fett, okay? I have somebody I'm gonna go to for leather, for all the leather parts, the holsters, the flak jacket, and those pieces. We're gonna do the armor. She's gonna do the jumpsuit. I outsource the boots because I haven't found somebody that will do custom boots yet. I'm working on that. That's stateside. I'm currently ordering them from Crow's Props, which is overseas. Their stuff is great, but I would like somebody local for faster turnaround. Still working on that. But so we went from being this company that was doing farmers markets and county markets and selling the same 3D printed stuff that we all make, the dragons and the butterflies and the articulated things and the neat cutesy little stuff, to being a complete cosplay facilitator. So if you come to me, and I go to her and say, what's your price? And I go to my leather maker and say, what's your price? And then I put together a whole package and I sell you on the package with payment plans if necessary. And then we go. So this is how, I'm telling you this because this is how doing cosplay as a business works. And this is the only way I found for it to work. You cannot be an island. We succeed because I have a team. And I call those guys, yes, they're my salesmen, they're my think tank. I will sit down and pitch every idea to them. What do you guys think about this? Does this color look right? Because I can be wrong. And I learned to throw my ego out the window a long time ago. And if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. I want to be in a room with people smarter than me. Because that's the only way I get better. The only way I improve. So cosplay challenges. Can this be made and worn? Just because it looks good in a movie does not mean it is functional. Anybody recognize this? If you don't, it's from Bram Stoker's Dracula in 1992. Gary Oldman wears this in the first 7 minutes of the film. If you read the behind the scenes on this cosplay piece, it is a nightmare. They built it out of metal and leather. It fell apart. Watch it and notice how he can't move or walk. I have a customer who wants this built. So now the challenge is, how do I actually make this work? I have the file. Sure. Guess what I'm not making it out of? Leather and metal. This is actually a picture of that costume from Heritage Auctions when it went up for auction for $785,000, just because Gary Oldman wore it, but it went to auction. But this is the picture from the auction house. This is one of the clearest photos I can find of it. The helmet, he never even wears the helmet in the movie. He's holding it at one point and then sets it down. You never even get a clear shot of it. This is the clearest shot of the helmet I've got. There's certain parts I have to have custom modeled. I'll come back to that later, but like the boot covers that are there and the fingertips, the way that they're shaped, I have to have those modeled. But I actually found this 3D file and got permission to make it. But how do I make this? That chest piece is all one piece, and then he's got these huge hip pieces, and it's so what I'm doing is I'm researching armor. Where are hinge points on actual functional armor? How is it actually attached? They used straps to connect to everything, like elastic and nylon straps to connect everything. That's actually not conducive to movement. All right, so we have to think about how does this work on the person. So every challenge, every cosplay piece has its own challenges, and it's trial and error, and it's putting it together and going, holy crap, that doesn't work, and then trying something else. Does the 3D model exist? You may have run into this one. You want to make something, can't find it. So this is from the game Lies of P, PS4 game, PS4, PS5 game that came out last year. I had a customer, I could find the arm, and I got the rights to print the arm piece, but this attachment on top didn't exist. Well, I've got to get it 3D modeled. So I went on Facebook, right? Such a brilliant idea. I went on Facebook and put into a couple different cosplay groups, hey, I need this thing 3D modeled, who can do it? And I had some people try to scam me, and I wasn't getting very consistent responses, so I went on Fiverr. And I found a guy on Fiverr that his work looked pretty good, and I went to him and I said, look, do you think you can do this? And he said, yeah, sure. This was the only image I had to send him, this one image. This is what he fired back and what we made. His model was perfect. He gave it to me in 4 days. I don't know what sorcery he does. I don't really care. He and I have an arrangement now. He's done so much work for me that my rule is he can charge me whatever he wants for whatever piece he's modeling. In exchange, it's mine. It is owned by my company. If anybody else wants it, they have to come to me. Or they have to have somebody else model it. Hasn't really come up, but that was just because I didn't want him modeling things for me and then throwing the designs up on Etsy. But that's what we made. And the way that we did this, I had to mechanically attach, meaning bolts and screws, the arm piece into that because of the weight. Well, it looks good, but it's not conducive to wear around at a con all day, particularly with a really sharp point. So I made a second arm piece without it at no charge to the customer. So that way he could take that off, set it down, put the other one on, still have his arm. When he goes to do the competition or photographs, takes that one off, slides the other one on. It's the exact same piece, just printed twice. One of them has that mechanically attached. I was originally going to try to use magnets, neodymium magnets. The weight was still too much for it to be, if you bumped it, it would still come right off. I had to mechanically attach it. So we had to get really creative because this hadn't been done before. Can it be done? The answer is yes, if you're willing to do the research and be patient with it. If anybody wants to know who I use, I will happily recommend him because he's a fantastic 3D modeler. He does almost all of my custom cosplay work that I need. I have sent him a single square out of a comic book that showed half of a mask, and he fired back a fully 3D modeled helmet that I could print and was ready to go, and it's perfect. I'm not entirely sure I'm not talking to an AI robot, but I really don't care. He's that good. And whenever I've needed him to correct something, he's on it. Is the customer a long way away? This is a challenge because now I'm relying on the customer to get me measurements. I'm in Florida, you guys are here. If any of you came to me today, I could measure you while you're here. But if you come to me 2 weeks from now after I've gone back to Florida, I can't do that. So now I'm relying on your measurements. When you're asking a customer, I have measurement forms that I send that are very easy to understand. But whether you're doing it for somebody else, somebody asks you for your measurements, never measure yourself. Never let your customer measure themselves. It will be wrong. Because how you run a tape measure around your chest and put your arms down will be a different number than if somebody else does it and you're relaxed. Case of the Django Fett build that I'm doing. I had to have him put a jacket on and then give me his measurements. Why? Because underneath the armor for it, there's a flak jacket, there is a leather waistband belt, there's a pouch belt on top of it, there's a holster belt underneath both of those on top of a flight suit. Okay, so put on your biggest jacket, measure around, and then still go round up an inch. You have to kind of think about those things, because if you don't, what you send them won't fit. Trial and error. I learned that thankfully on my friend Jessica, who lives in Maryland, that I make these pieces for, the model, that I can do that, so that's what I suggest there. State-of-the-art modeling software for sizing armor. This is one I'm going to recommend to everybody in here if you haven't used it before. I actually have it pulled up. Armorsmith. I love Armorsmith. If you haven't used Armorsmith before, it's $45 one time. You download it, it's yours. It does not have a high GPU usage, so this is an off-the-shelf Asus laptop, nothing special, and it runs it just fine. It's put out by the Armored Garage. What this does is, this is one I'm working on. This is a Commando Gregor. It allows me to put in the customer's measurements. It will build a mannequin in here, male or female. You choose at the beginning which one you need. You put in all the measurements, and it will build a mannequin to their measurements. Then you can import individually every single armor piece and scale them now onto that, and then export the 3D file to whatever you've scaled. And you can do all kinds of weird things with this. You can adjust proportions and angles and make some areas larger and some areas narrower. And it works. Is it perfect? No. Is it about the best thing out there right now? Yes. And for $45, you really can't, one-time fee, you cannot beat what you're getting from it. It's not a subscription, you just pay for it. It's an independent company that makes it. I think this is one of those that when they do perfect it, this is gonna blow up and probably become a monthly subscription service. Get it now, yes.
So with this software, can you so you make the mannequin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you upload a separate STL file of the armor and apply it to the mannequin?
Yep, so I'll actually show you, I have some on here. So I've got some of these that are already on my mannequin, but I loaded some of the pieces on here. So like the left forearm, there's a button over here that says attach. And when I click that, it shows me on here attachment points. They give me a rough idea, so I know it's going on the bicep. So if I click this, I can now rotate it. I can turn it, I can scale it. I can turn around my model and I can see, okay, are parts of my model poking through? You can move it around. So if that bicep of my customer is the right measurement, now I know that, okay, what I've just scaled it to will fit them. And then I can export it. And you can do that for each individual armor piece.
So that's how you make custom armor for all of your clients that are just random sizes?
For the most part, that's how I do most of it, yeah. The only part that gets challenged that I can't do on here, it will give me the option for hand size, diameter of fingers. So if I'm doing pieces that go over fingers, I have to get the diameter of your fingers wearing gloves, because more than likely I'm going to be attaching these pieces to gloves. And then I will go into a free program like Blender, which is one of the other programs that I use a lot, and I will make a cylinder that diameter, and then I'll bring in my file and scale it, and I'll do it that way. There's other ways to do it, and you don't have to use Armorsmith. You could do it any way that works for you. But what's nice about this is it allows me to add in padding, so I know how things are going to sit on the body from experience. You can kind of look and see the back piece doesn't sit right here. The back piece doesn't sit exactly against the back because it wouldn't. But what I'm looking at is the height of it good? Is the width of it good? Does it match the width of the person's chest? Does it match? You're gonna have some leeway. And with armor, anything that's 3D printed, if it's too big, you can always add some foam padding. You can always, if it's a little, few millimeters big here or there, you can always pad it. You just can never expand something. So it's better to err on the side of, is it slightly larger than you need? Because it can be adjusted on the back end. But this has trial and error with it. I suggest put your own measurements in and make something for you. Whether it's a bracer or it's a hand plate, something, just to kind of give you an idea of when you're working with it, what it actually looks like before you start doing it for somebody else. But if you're doing it for you, yeah, build a model of yourself and play with it. So that's one of the main programs that I use. So Bamboo Lab is my software. I have 23 3D printers, 6 of them are resin. I have 4 Anycubic Cobra Maxes, which are my large form. They have 3 of them have a 17-inch cube build plate. 1 of them has a 19-inch. I use that when I have to do things like fallout helmets that are large, like power armor, big pieces that I need in one piece. Yes.
So are you using the Anycubic Cobra 2?
I have the Cobra Max 2, or the Cobra 2 Max. I have 1 of those. That's the 19-inch build plate. I have some of the original Cobra Maxes that they came out with a few years ago that I still have that are still reliable and work great. I don't use those as much. I use the 8 bamboos that I have as my primary.
And is it because of the quality, like less airlines or less quality, or?
The reason I use the bamboos is a couple things. One is that I have tighter layer lines. The consistency is better. It is way faster. To give you an idea, so the original Cobra Max, the Vipers, the Ender 3s, all those, they work at about 70 millimeters per second. My Bamboo does 300. I can actually cap it at 500 if I really want to push it. I don't. I leave it at the default 300 millimeters per second. What used to take me 27, 28 hours to print, I can now do in 8. I have 4 of the Bamboo P1S. I have 4 of the Bamboo Carbons. I have 1 of the Carbons with me. If you want to know the differences between them, come by my booth. I'll happily break that down and explain, because there's about a $400 price point, and I don't think people understand what that $400 difference is. They're both great. I use all 8 of them. They are my main workforce of printers, are those, including for my cosplay. My P1S and my Carbons, they have a 10-inch build plate. I can get a Mando helmet on those. That fits me, and I've got a fairly large head, especially with my hairs down. And then Blender, which is a free modeling program. If you're not sure how to use Blender, you can look it up. There's all kinds of tutorials all over YouTube on how to do this. The pieces that are 3D printed on this outfit, the helmet, the pack on the belt, the pack on the shoulder strap, and then the elbow piece, those are all done, printed on my bamboos. For that, I'll show you a little bit about this one. So we modeled this based off of 501st guideline requirements for Finnick Shand, and my wife will be wearing this one tomorrow. So this does come off, magnetic attachment, does allow for adjustment and visibility. Because she doesn't want to wear the wig and do the face makeup, 501st requirements are if you're wearing the helmet, you have to have the braid attached. So we did do the custom braid with the orange through it and all the weathering. I do have her rifle. I did not bring it because it's not quite finished the way I wanted, and it wouldn't have been right for me to show it off as a piece compared to like what else I had, because it wasn't finished and I was not comfortable doing that. I have unfinished pieces at my booth that you can see kind of my process. We go by, as much as possible when it comes to Star Wars, we go by 501st and Rebel Legion guidelines because they look good. Yes.
That piece you just took off the elbow, that's 3D printed. How is the elastic hooked to it? Is it just glued? Okay.
I measured her arm,
And then same thing like with the pieces like on the chest there.
So the pieces, those are attached with Velcro.
With like just sticky back Velcro.
Industrial.
Okay.
I get the heaviest actual Velcro brand
Okay.
that has, and it will stay. It won't come off. You can put it through the wash. It will stay. If you're really concerned about it, you can put a couple stay stitches into it in the corners, but it's really not going to come off. Yes.
So I printed in PLA, and I had like a T800, and it collapsed and shattered. So do you always print in carbon, or do you use PLA sometimes?
Oh, everything I do is PLA. Carbon is very rare. That's PLA.
That's PLA. I guess I-
PLA and ABS are the 2 that are best for cosplay. They both have their ups and downs. I started with PLA. I'm just familiar with it. There's not really a right or a wrong. It comes down to preference. In the back, yes.
So you mentioned using Anycubic Cobra 2 Maxes and Bamboo X1 Carbons. I got 2 questions. One, as far as the slicing software, do you use software, what do you use for your Anycubic?
So for the Anycubic 2 Max and the newer Anycubics, the Anycubic Slicer is great, and we'll talk to those wirelessly. In the older Anycubic models, I use profiles that are built into Bamboo, and I use Bamboo for everything else. The reason the Bamboo software does not have profiles built into it for the newer Anycubics. Otherwise, I'll tell you flat out, I would use Bamboo for everything. I like its ease of use. I like its versatility. It has a feature that is amazing that I haven't seen in all the slicers. I can cut something in half, and I can put in connector pins. I no longer have to try to match up seams, and it will be exact. I use it liberally. I do it when I print swords, when I print stabs, when I print any kind of piece, even like the Jango Fett jetpack that I'm doing. I wanted to challenge myself. I could do it on my Cobra Max. It's actually faster for me to throw it on my Bamboos in 4 pieces with connectors. And when I put it together, the line's almost invisible as it is. Throw cement between it, line Bondo filler, and it's invisible. You never know. So that feature alone makes Bamboo better.
And then
Yes.
you also said that you could fit a Mandalorian helmet easily. I forget what printer you said that was on the X1 carbon.
The Bamboo, it'll fit on the A1, not the Mini, the A1, the P1S, P1P, or the Carbon
You could fit a Mandalorian helmet on.
in one piece. That'll fit my head. And I have the diameter of, the measurement I take for measuring helmets is the eyebrow above. It's the same measurement they take for the Army. It's above your eyebrow, around the diameter of your head, 27 3/4 inches. I have a big head. And when you factor in my hair and that I have to wear like a balaclava underneath it to like push my hair down because I have long hair, yeah, and it fits me. I actually have a Mando helmet at my booth that people can put on and take a look at. It's beat to crap because it's the one I take to conventions that I let people put on, but you can try it on, you can see it, yeah.
So I just recently got an X1 carbon, started printing. What is your process for sanding in order to get rid of those layer lines and to smooth it out and get a glare on it?
I'm gonna get there. I got that for you. I do want to tell you about this guy though, Justin Bryce. So, one question I do get asked is how do I get customers? I don't have an Etsy store. I run a Facebook ad once a month, sometimes twice if I need to. That one Facebook ad, I'll spend $100. I'll run it for 5 days, and I'll just give you a number. I did that in March. I spent $100 on a Facebook ad. I just put out one graphic that advertised I made cosplay, and I had $7,000 in sales off that one ad in 5 days. So your follow-up, that one ad got me 39 leads. I won't go into the rest of the numbers. The second ad that I ran, because of the way the Facebook algorithm works, if you do it regularly, my first ad got me 39 leads. My second ad got me 107. Now, some of those turn out to be nothing. I'll be honest. Some of those are people just wasting my time, frankly. There's a lot of that. I'm looking for the 7 or 8 people that are serious. That's it. But that just kind of gives you an idea. That's what I do. So I say that to mention this. When I ran my first Facebook ad, I got an email a few days later from a guy. He said, yeah, I want to do Clone Commando Gregor, the one that you saw there. What would be your price? So I came up with a price, and I said, if you wanted this, if you want me to go the extra mile and try to hit 504 standards, there's a lot more research and look, then it's going to be this much because I have to do this much more work. He wanted the blaster, the DC-17 blaster, great. It's going to be this much, and we were kind of chatting. He was like, okay, do you do a payment plan? I do. And then he added at the end of it, well, I'm not going to be back in America until November of next year, 25. And that was kind of the end of our conversation, and I was like, okay, that's kind of an odd way to end that, but all right, whatever, and I moved on. That Facebook ad, that was an email, mind you. The Facebook ad, all that Facebook ad got me was a name and a phone number to text. That was all I was looking for. You can set it up where people can click it and fill out a lead form. So I went through and I texted everybody. I have a standard thing that I say to every single person that will get a response, either yes or no. And so I finally get a text back from this lady who says, oh, I want to get a Stormtrooper costume for my son. And I'm thinking 8-year-old, 10-year-old. No. This is the mom of the guy that I had been talking to. And we're talking, and she's like, yeah, he wants to get this, and this. And I was like, wait, is your son's name? I went back in my emails. I was like, is your son's name Justin? She goes, yeah. I think I've spoken with him. Well, I sent him your page because your stuff looked really cool. I said, yeah, he reached out to me. So here's the story of Justin. Justin is a soldier in the U.S. Army. He's on his 3rd combat deployment. He spent the last 2 years in Qatar. He just got sent to Jordan after the base in Jordan got bombed. He's slated to come home for a short reprieve next November because they're only allowed to keep him in a combat zone for X amount of time. He's lost everything while being there. He's coming back, and his mom wants to do this for him because it's what he's always wanted. And he was trying to figure out how to put all this together, and we had a very emotional conversation, and I asked her permission before I said, can I talk about Justin at my panel? She said, yeah. So we're talking about it, and I said, what do you want me to mention? She says, well, mention that when he was 10 years old, they were in a car accident. It was him, his 7-year-old brother, and mom. Mom was knocked unconscious. He was doing CPR on his dead brother until paramedics arrived. 10 years old. He's the kind of guy that will literally go until he's got nothing left, if that's what it takes. And hearing the stories about him and some of the things he'd been through, I mean, she's crying, I'm crying. It's a very emotional call, and I'm like, no, my dad was Navy, my grandfather was a Marine. I've got long history of family members. We're big supporters of the U.S. military and soldiers. And I'm like, who deserves something like this more than some guy who's so selfless? He keeps re-enlisting because his viewpoint is they need me, and I'm willing. And so I was like, well, crap. She wants to pay for it. She doesn't want him to know that she's paying for it. What do I do? How do I get his measurements? Because now I have to have that conversation of, hey, how do I get your measurements? But I'm supposed to make this for you, but your mom doesn't want you. So my wife came up with this brilliant idea. We sent him an email that just said, hey, to make sure our pricing is correct, can you send me the measurements off your Army uniforms? Just so I can adjust my pricing to make sure the numbers I gave you were right. Brilliant idea. It worked. We got all of his measurements back, shoe size, hat size, everything came back. And I sent him an email that said, you focus on coming home, we're taking care of it. And so I'm working with the mom. In the conversation with the mom, I found out she's going to be at this convention tomorrow. We didn't know that at all. I knew she was in Texas. And I was like, we're actually going to be, Texas is huge. She could be anywhere in Texas, right? I said, turns out she was like 45 minutes away from here. I said, yeah, we're going to be in Texas. We had just found out the day before we were going to be at this con. We didn't even know at the time we started the conversation. We just found out we were going to be here. She was like, oh, Rebel Scum Con? Yeah. Oh, I'm going to be there getting autographs for him. So she's supposed to come by the booth tomorrow, and we're going to meet. And I'm not sure I'm emotionally ready for that, but we decided that when he comes home, we're going to deliver it to him. We're going to drive it out here, and we're going to surprise him with it. I tell that story to say this. You never know when you're making something, whether it's for yourself or for somebody else, you have no idea the emotional impact you may be having on that person. This is one where I know. How many other cosplays have I made for people that were emotionally important to them, more than just a costume? It may mean something to them, legitimately mean something to them, and you have no idea. So we take what we do very, very seriously, and we put a lot of pride and effort into it because it's important, and you don't know the impact. And so this is one of those really cool, surreal moments where it was like, this is exactly what it feels like I need to be doing because of this. You asked about what we do to get layer lines. These are products that I use. We're constantly developing new techniques. We take pretty much the same products that everybody uses, right? This is all stuff you get Walmart, Home Depot. We've all seen this. We've all seen the tutorials online. I'll tell you one that I do that I don't see too many people doing. I saw a guy do it on YouTube with an airbrush, and I scaled it up. So we're familiar with this stuff. 2-in-1 filler primer, sandable filler primer. You can wet sand it. It'll help fill in gaps. Great stuff. Bondo Spot Putty, it's the red cream. And then I like to use acetone. Now, if you're using ABS, be careful because acetone will eat through ABS and you have to use it very carefully. If you're using PLA, go nuts. Here's what I do, and this is the reason I use PLA is because it lets me do this. I have a air compressor and I have an automotive spray gun with a metal canister, 1 liter metal canister. I mix 1/3 of that tube with acetone until it's a liquid and running like water. I fill up it and I spray my props. What happens is it atomizes the Bondo, the same stuff that we use to fill in all the tiny little holes and pock marks and everything. I saw a guy do this with an airbrush, but you can only fill up like a 1 ounce cup with it. And I was like, I do batches of armor that's gonna take me forever and it will ruin my airbrush. So I have an air compressor and I have a spray gun. I fill up a 1 liter canister with that and I just spray till it's empty. wear PPE, gloves, respirator. This stuff will burn your lungs. Don't be stupid. Follow the directions on the canister. Rule number 1, don't be stupid. It will suck a lot, trust me. Spray your prop with it. What happens is it atomizes the Bondo. It will fill in all of the gaps, pinholes, layer lines for you. Hit it with 1,000 grit sandpaper, it'll come out smooth as glass. Yes?
That was 1/3 of the clay.
About 1/3 of the tube, I'll squeeze into a canister I don't care about,
Yeah.
and then just pour acetone in and mix until it's like water.
Oh,
There's not really a ratio that's right.
okay.
What's more important is that it has to be able to flow through your spray gun. Acetone evaporates faster than rubbing alcohol. So by the time, like if I have a paint tent, I'll put all my props out. By the time I start spraying here and I get to this end's dry. I'm in Florida, so in Florida heat, Texas is gonna be the same thing. It will, you will see your layer lines disappear very quickly. It's not perfect, there's still some work to do on the back end, but it takes that tube and goes a whole lot further with it, which is, these are running, you go to Walmart, that's $5-6 a tube. It'll take that tube and you'll go way further with that tube doing this process. And you don't have to go the whole method that I do. This is actually what I use. Just a portable 1 gallon, I don't have a Ryobi, it was the picture I found, but it's a portable 1 gallon air compressor. And you want a spray gun with a metal canister and an air regulator. You buy these as a kit, it's like $35 on Amazon, comes together as one. Bob's your uncle, you're good to go. You want the metal canister because acetone eats through plastic. If it's not the right kind of plastic, it will just eat right through. And then you'll end up with acetone all over your hands, and that sucks. And then to clean, run straight acetone through your sprayer. It'll take out all the particles, and then run water. When it's spraying clear, you're good to go. There's nothing else you have to do. You don't even have to disassemble it. Just run straight acetone through it, then water. Yes?
Just put in something that you wouldn't throw away, like metal chemistry, you don't throw away, or?
The mixer that the canister that I use for mixing is just a little metal tin that I just keep reusing until I feel like getting a different one.
Okay.
And I use an old butter knife to stir because why not? It works. And it's metal, so it's not going to fall apart. But that's it. That's it. You do that, and then when you do, once I put that spray prime, the spray 2-in-1 spray on, it is wet sanding from there on out. I'm done dry sanding at that point. And wet sanding is the secret. You can also wet sand Bondo. Not a lot of people know that. You can wet sand Bondo. It will come out very, very smooth. I have heard about a new product. I was talking with the founder of the Mandalorian Mercs. He put me onto a new product. I'm not going to talk about it just yet because I haven't tried it, so I don't really know. I'm eager to. I couldn't even tell you the name of it offhand. I had to take a screenshot of it, and it's back at my booth. But for right now, this process has been working really well for me for the last 6 months. And I can't complain about the end result. My layer lines are gone. Physical limitations to cosplay, not in our mind. Where there's a will, there's a way, we will find a way. I want to tell you about Damon. And this is going to bring me to the end of my presentation after this. Damon is a very special young man that I met at a convention. Damon is confined to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. He was born with a condition called spina bifida with hydrocephalus. He has a gap in his spine. He was born with a gap in his spinal column. And he has CSF, cerebral spinal fluid, on the brain. It's unable to drain through his spinal column because of that gap, and so he's had surgeries and all these things. He's confined to a wheelchair since he was 2. He's 10 now. Amazing young man. Wonderful personality. I met him at a con. And his mom, single mom, raising him, she makes all of his cosplays out of cardboard. And she makes it out of the cardboard his medical boxes come in for his stuff. And I saw him at a convention, and I've actually got pictures of him. These are a couple of his. He works his wheelchair into all of his cosplays. So they're Harry Potter with a hippogriff, Marshmallow, and he's so funny. But I saw him at a convention, and he was a biker scout, and his mom had turned his wheelchair into a speeder bike. And she had done it with cardboard, and it looked great. And I was so proud of her, and I have a picture of it here in a sec. I'll show you. He actually ended up winning the cosplay contest with it. But the cardboard, going around the con, turning the corner, it got beat up. And by the end of the day, it was kind of bent up and everything. And I went to her and I said, hey, look, if it's okay with you, I want to make proper chest armor for him, and we want to outfit his wheelchair to look like a speeder bike even more. And I thought she was going to cry. That's what he won the contest with, which is awesome. So I have a meeting. The helmet was a gift to him. It's a Black Series Biker Scout helmet, so he's got this amazing helmet. And I told her, I was like, look, I don't want to step on your toes. You've done amazing work just doing this. I'm just concerned about, I want him to be able to have this, and I'm concerned about durability and that you're going to keep doing it over. Let me 3D print the parts. So the parts that are on the front, I'm also going to put parts that clip on to here that are modeled after the actual speeder bike handles that are going to come up in front. And then there's a box on the back, and we're going to do some chest armor for him. But it's one of those where it's like, I look at it and I go, okay, well, there's some challenges here. You know, he's still a growing boy. How do I make this so that it's going to fit him, and that the chest armor is adjustable? What do we do with that? We have to take different measurements. I have a portable 3D scanner that I use. I don't use it a lot, but we're going to 3D scan his wheelchair. So now I'll have a workable model exactly of his wheelchair, exactly as it is, and then I can build parts onto that'll work. So you never know the impact your cosplay is going to have when you're working with people, and you're going to meet amazing people that are going to change your life. And I didn't even realize when this photo was sent to me, the little girl in the upper right, the nifty, we did that mask. I was like, oh, hey, I recognize that piece too. I'm so focused on him. It's like, oh yeah, I made that mask as well. But yeah, it's pretty neat. And our goal is to actually get him set up where we can get him a 501st approved Biker Scout when he turns 18. Try to work on getting him set up and working towards that goal, which sent a light into his eyes, which is awesome. So you get a lot of fun to do fun things like that. So that's what I got. What other questions does anybody have? I want to answer anything anybody wants to know. Yes?
Question. I'm planning a Mandalorian jetpack.
Okay.
I want to make it as light as possible, but durable.
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible to forego the infill and have thicker walls?
Yes and no.
Yes and no?
Yes and no.
Oh, that's a no.
Yes and no.
Okay.
My infill rate is 5% on most things. 5% I found with PLA is kind of the magic number. You can go thicker walls, that never hurts. 5% infill is kind of the magic number that will give you the stability but also cut down the weight. You're gonna lose, if you go no infill, you're gonna lose detail, especially when it tries to come up on top and do the top layers and build on itself. It'll have no support to do that. The other thing you can do, and something that I'm doing with this for him to help cut down the weight of this backpack, is I'm actually going to hollow out this part here on the inside, and we're going to install Camelback waterback in there so he can actually have water built into his cosplay. But that does a couple things. It cuts down the weight of that and the bulkiness, and actually turns it into something that might be somewhat useful. So I'll throw this in Blender, I'll do a boolean that'll cut a hole out of it, and you can do that. It's being mounted again. Now, I will tell you this. If it's something, before you make any modification like that, if you're going to try for approval into any of the groups, talk to somebody that's in those groups first and find out if they will allow it. Some of them get very, very particular. Even if it's a part that can't be seen, they're going to be very particular. So if you're trying to get something that's going to be approved by a group, check with the group first before you make those modifications, or you'll end up having to remake it. In his case, you'll never even know that was there to begin with, but I believe in making cosplay practical, and I know how I'm burning up wearing this thing. So I can only imagine what 8 pounds of armor is going to feel like after a long day.
So what size wall would you do?
Your standard is probably going to, your default setting is going to be probably 2 to 5 walls, depending on the model. Increase it by 20%. You know, you don't have to go crazy. What you want is you want to be able to grab it and do this and not feel it collapse on you. Flexibility is good. Too much, it shouldn't be like elastic. Because what's going to happen is the moment it gets warm, it's going to collapse on itself under its own weight. Never leave your 3D props in your car.
So you said 2 to 5 walls and 20%?
5% infill, but increase. If you're trying to go thicker walls, play with it. That's best. You maybe print small scale. You know, print something like a belt box, something small that you can go, okay, I'm seeing how thick that is. Something that's not going to use a lot of filament. Go small first and build prototypes before you dump tons of filament into a big print and then go, oh wait, that doesn't work, and now I can't reuse that filament for anything else.
Right. Okay.
There are ways to reuse filament. There are not cheap ways to reuse filament. I have a what's called a granulator. It's a 220 volt giant granulator. It's designed for grinding bones to dust for like fertilizer and composting. I have to hook it up to a special generator because I don't have a 220 volt hookup in my house that it can reach. And it weighs 600 pounds. And I can feed my plastic into that and it'll grind it to dust, and then I can melt that plastic into something. Let me tell you how many times I've used it. I am this close to selling it to the farmer that lives next to me because it's just too much of a hassle. They make filament remakers. You'll see them, they run about $3,000. And it's this whole thing where it'll grind the plastic up and then it will melt it and then it will draw it back into a strand. Plastic can only have that done to it so many times. By the time you're getting that PLA, it's already happened 7 to 8 times. Most PLA is made from recycled plastic. If you look on the bottom of a plastic water bottle, you'll see a recycle symbol and then a number. That's how many times that plastic's been recycled to be to that point. 7 to 8 is the maximum before it starts losing its consistency and losing its integrity. So it will become more brittle. It's not going to be. You're not going to get a consistent pull. If there's humidity, you're going to get pox, and it's just they haven't perfected the process yet. So when you can learn to manage your waste, you're going to be a much happier person. Yes?
So what brand PLA do you use that doesn't have, hasn't been reused?
Elegoo.
Elegoo?
Elegoo white is what I use for pretty much white or black, whichever I get a better deal on for all of my cosplay. I get it for about $11 a roll off Amazon. I'll buy it 10 rolls at a time. Yes?
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One is there really that big of a difference between PLA and PLA Plus? And as far as finishing products, I've seen some people on YouTube where they use liquid resin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you ask the owner of the Mandalorian Mercs, he'll tell you that he coats his in liquid resin. That is a totally valid way to do it. There is a challenge. Yep, there's a challenge you run into with liquid resin. We're coming up near the end of our time, but I want to address your question. There's a challenge you run into with liquid resin, which is one, it's a mess. If you're already used to working with resin printers, then you're kind of familiar with the odor, the fumes, and everything with that. If you're willing to put up with that and work with it, there are guys that will take their prints, coat it in liquid resin, set it out in the sun, it'll UV cure, and they'll come back to it in a couple hours and it's ready to go. Yeah, you can do that, and then you sand it like you would anything else. Very valid way to do it. As far as difference between PLA and PLA Plus, not that I found. PLA Plus is supposed to be designed for high flow and for fast printers. My bamboos are some of the fastest on the market. I use off-the-shelf PLA. I have not noticed a quality difference between them. It's just one is supposedly rated for smoother transition. There's also, and I don't remember who makes it, and I'm not going to crap on it because I haven't used it. I'm just going to tell you that there's companies that market a filament designed for cosplay that's supposed to be easier to sand. I haven't used it. I don't know if it actually is any different or not. For the cost of that versus the cost of my PLA and some sandpaper and a little bit of my time, I'm coming out ahead price-wise in this camp. I'm also somebody that's found a system that works for me. If you find one that works for you, I want to know about it. If people find a better way, please tell me. Make my life easier. I have literally sanded things until I'm bleeding from underneath my fingernails because that's what it requires sometimes. And long days and long hours. But this is what I do all day long, 6 days a week. I would love to answer every single question. If anybody has any more, please come see me at my booth. I will be there all weekend. But I am unfortunately out of time. Thank you for coming to the panel and for sitting in and listening to me ramble on about this. I could keep going all day and will. So thanks. I have my cards up here. If anybody has any other questions, you can come up and see me or come see me at my booth.